Hello everyone, this is Brad, otherwise known as Pug Weasel, with another Preppers You Have It Wrong video. I believe that the best title for this video should be Critical Warning for Preppers, because it's not actually about, generally about preppers, but something that I think is very serious that you need to look for within your own ranks. That, you know, I'm not trying to tell you that the majority of you have this issue. I'm trying to tell you that the majority of you don't, but that your movement is going to be very attractive to the kind of people I'm about to explain to you. Let me just start by giving you the disclaimers so that, again, I can make it very clear that I'm not trying to tell preppers in general that there's something wrong with them. So let me just make this disclaimer. Some of you are prepping because of some event that you believe that could actually happen in the future, and that's completely sane. Some of you are prepping in order to prepare for something that the press or the government says is not going to happen, but you have done your own research or listened to someone you trust, and what they've told you made sense to you. Again, that is sane. And now that I've made this disclaimer, I want to go on to read you some definitions, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm reading you these definitions. Okay? Let's start with paranoid personality disorder and paranoid delusions. Individuals with paranoid personality disorder are generally difficult to get along with and often have problems with close relationships. Their excessive suspicious and hostility may be expressed in overt argumentativeness and recurrent complaining. Because they are hypervigilant for potential threats, they may act in a guarded, secreted, or devious manner. People who have this disorder often display a labile range of affect, with hostile, stubborn, and sarcastic expressions predominating. Because individuals with paranoid personality disorder lack of trust in others, they have excessive need to be self-sufficient and a strong sense of autonomy. I am getting this from Psych Central. These are explanations of an actual paranoid personality disorder. It's an actual disorder. I have a psychology degree. I know it actually exists. Let me go on and give you a little more information, and then I will explain why we're talking about it. A pervasive distrust and suspiciousness of others, such that their motives are interpreted as malevolent. They suspect without sufficient basis that others are exploiting or harming or deceiving them, and they are preoccupied with unjustified doubts about loyalty and trustworthiness of friends or associates, and that includes family. They're reluctant to confide in others because of unwarranted fear that the information will be used maliciously against him or her. Reads hidden meaning and hidden threats into benign remarks from other people. Persistently bears grudges and is unforgiving of insults, injuries, and slights, and perceives attacks on his or her character or reputation that are not apparent to others. In other words, when you're around, you hear someone say something, maybe tell a joke, and the person takes it personally. I'm trying to go quickly because there's a bunch of stuff to read here, but under just paranoid delusion, this is when a person has a false belief that they're being harmed or persecuted by a particular person or group. Paranoid delusions are also technically known as persecutory type delusions. It involves a person's belief that he or she is being conspired against, cheated, spied, or followed, poisoned or drugged, maliciously maligned, harassed, or obstructed in pursuit of long-term goals. Small slights may be exaggerated to become focus of the delusion. Individuals with paranoid delusions are often resentful and angry, and may resort to violence against those that they believe are hurting them or a loved one. Paranoid delusions are most often diagnosed in the context of schizophrenia, but can occur in other psychological disorders. Okay, that's the first definition I want to give you. Let me get into the second one. The second one is narcissistic personality disorder, and it is usually just called, basically the people are called narcissists. And basically, narcissistic personality disorder is characterized by a long-standing pattern of grandiosity, and either fantasy-wise or actual behavior, an overwhelming need for admiration, usually a complete lack of empathy towards others. People with narcissistic personality disorder often display snobbish, disdainful, or patronizing attitudes. Symptoms: has a grandiose sense of self-importance, is preoccupied with fantasies or unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, believes that he or she is special and unique, has very strong sense of entitlement, unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations, is exploitive to others, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends, and lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings of others, is often envious of others, regularly shows arrogance, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Okay? So those are two definitions that I wanted to read to you as we start to talk about what this critical warning is about. So the reason I'm discussing this with you is because, not to say that this is your problem, okay? Let's get that straight. I am not saying that because I want you to look at yourself and say, oh my God, he just, I must be crazy. That's not what I want you to do. That's not what I'm accusing you of. These disorders tend to cause problems within your family. If your family's prepping together, you probably don't have either one of these disorders, paranoid personality disorder or narcissism, because your family would become distant from you. Now, don't get me wrong, both of these disorders are not the kind of disorders where people have them and then they just recognize that they have them and say, yeah, that's what my problem is. People who have these issues do not believe they have these issues, but there are signs that definitely can help you to understand that you don't have them. Okay, so again, one of them is, if you and your family seem to be getting along just fine while you prep together, you're not paranoid, nor are you. It's very likely that you're not paranoid, nor are you narcissistic. The truth is that these things tend to affect everyone around you, and it's very, very, very unlikely that you have become paranoid and drawn in other people to be paranoid with you in a way that is mentally dysfunctional. Okay? So let's get that straight. If you're not suffering in such a manner, we're not talking about you. So let's talk about why I'm making the video and why I read you those definitions of personality disorders. Here's the reason. As I got to thinking about this, and I'll tell you a story, and this is why I got to thinking about it. I got a comment on one of my other videos that was not a prepper video. It was a gun safety video where someone basically got on there and told me that there was no need for anybody to do a video about gun safety, and essentially called me a safety Sally and I believe a safety Nazi. And then I went to his YouTube site, where one of the first videos you see is this introductory video that he did, and it, in its introductory, explains about how if you come to his site to disagree with him, to argue with him, or to insult him, he is going to erase your comment and block you because it's a bunch of BS and he knows what you're all about. He doesn't need any of that. So basically, this is a man who, whilst going out into the world of YouTube and looking at other people's videos, criticizes and says nasty things about people, and then turns around and tries to make sure that no one ever does that to him. That is a side of the narcissistic personality disorder. Okay? So I'm not telling you that this guy is standing next to you right now. What I'm saying is that the prepper movement, the prepper organizations that are out there, are in fact very attractive to someone who's paranoid. Okay? You are already preparing for something that the vast majority of people don't believe is going to happen. So if someone who has a paranoid personality disorder wants to feel like they fit in somewhere, trying to fit in with you is the ideal thing, because you already believe something that the vast majority of other people would say isn't going to happen or isn't true. So they may feel like that's a good place for them to be. As they commiserate with you, you've probably interacted with some of these people. And I'm not trying to say you have just hordes of them and that you're a minority amongst them. You're not. that's not how mental illness tends to affect the United States. But you may have one or two within the circles that you travel in, whether it be online or physically. And definitely with the narcissistic personality disorder, you've got people who are out there and they are going to show their ability to criticize you all day long. They're going to insist on having things their way. And if you disagree with them in the least, one, they're not going to care about what you think or what you feel, but more importantly, they're going to criticize you and ridicule you. But if you ridicule them or criticize them, they're going to take it as a much bigger offense than you might take it and become dangerous to you. Possibly. I won't say that, definitely, absolutely. You may end up kicking these people out of your organization or not. But the reason I specifically bring it up is because, let's say, whatever your reason is for believing that the shit's going to hit the fan, that we're going to be without rule of law, that it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. Let's say you're right and you decide that as a prepper, you need to network with other preppers. You need to join together in some way, shape, or form, whether it just be to communicate or you actually pool your resources to work together. Then you are likely to have some of these people, the narcissistic personality disorder people, or the paranoid personality disorder people, within your ranks. Right now, that paranoid personality disorder is probably not showing itself as heavily because they are sitting around talking the same talk as you. If you believe that the government is going to, has FEMA trailers or is going to someday, I think a more common one I should say is destroy the economy so that there's this outrageous amount of inflation to the point that the economy falls to pieces and we end up in such a situation that is post civilization, or at least as we know it. You're already working within the realm of what they want to believe, so they're not going to stand out too much. You're going to have to look for some of those other sides, some of the stuff that I read off that maybe you're letting go as just that person's a little eccentric or they're a little pushy or a little snobby, but you're willing to let that go because they believe what you believe. You may in fact be dealing with someone with a mental illness, but it's not that apparent because since you have a conspiracy theory yourself, you seem to make them more comfortable than the average person would who doesn't believe that the world's going to end anytime too soon. Further, this is just one of those topics. The prepper thing is just one of those topics that lends itself to the narcissistic personality disorder. The person with the narcissistic personality disorder is not running around killing people or getting into violent fistfights constantly right now while we're in the midst of the rule of law. But in a post-rule of law world where their entire world is being shattered, it's very reasonable to assume that this person may in fact become violent. So it's something that you as preppers have to worry about. The two disorders, paranoid delusional paranoid personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, these two groups of people in a post-rule of law world could become dangerous, and it is very likely that they are already in and amongst you because believing in a situation where you believe that any time between, say, now and months, just a few years, somewhere in between there's going to be an end of the world scenario, is a place where the paranoid delusional person can become very comfortable and feel like they're in and amongst other people who believe what they believe and who will believe their stories about their persecution by the government or whoever else. Further, the narcissistic personality disorder person can expound about how great they're going to be in the post-world world. I'm sorry, let me say that again. How great they're going to be in the post-rule of law world, in the post shit hit the fan world, and how they will be able to handle this, that, and the other thing, and how they're going to be well armed, and how they're going to be able to take care of the enemy better than everybody else. So this is a perfect place to be in communication if you have narcissistic personality disorder. And so I can only imagine how many of these people may be in and amongst you, but I doubt very seriously that by any stretch of the imagination it's some kind of, you know, even significant majority, or I'm sorry, not majority, but minority, significant minority. I would argue that probably you're looking at just, some of you don't have any people with mental illness within your groups. Some of you do. It's going to be one person, and it doesn't take more than just one person to make a really big difference. If, say, what you believe comes to pass and you're out there trying to survive and you've got somebody who now believes that you are their worst enemy and they have to do something about you, and there really is no rule of law, and they have guns and they have supplies and they have resources. So it's going to be a serious problem for you if you become the person who's the subject of the delusion, the subject of the anger from the narcissistic personality. And I think it's something that you have to consider. What are you going to do with that one person in your group? With that one person that's a part of the network that you've joined, who's become dangerous to you and is inside the circle? It's an interesting topic to talk about. I'd love to hear what your comments are. My name's Brad, otherwise known as Pug Weasel. Have a good night.